Her family threw her away for a man who showed up to his own wedding on a bicycle. That's what they thought they were doing anyway. To them, he was nothing, no car, no money, no name worth saying twice. They handed her off like they were finally getting rid of a bill that had come due. What none of them knew, what nobody in that laughing crowd could have guessed, was that the man on the bicycle was the heir to one of the largest fortunes in the country, and he had come pedaling up that street on purpose to find out exactly who would love him when they believed he had nothing. If you've ever been the one they overlooked, the one nobody chose, stay with me until the end and hit that subscribe button now, because you are not going to believe how this turns. In the Fields house there were 2 daughters, and everybody had already decided which one mattered. One got the wealthy groom, the imported flowers, and the seat of honor. The other got a folding chair in the corner, and a father who leaned in on her wedding day and whispered a warning she would never forget. They gave away the wrong daughter, and they were about to find out just how wrong. The morning of the double wedding, the Fields house was loud in the ugliest possible way. 2 daughters, 2 grooms, one household that had decided years ago which daughter counted. Tiana Fields sat in the middle of the living room, like a director had positioned her under the best light. Her gown cost more than most families' rent. Her makeup artist had flown in from Miami. Her mother hovered behind her, squeezing her shoulders, murmuring things like flawless and breathtaking and everything we prayed over. Across the room, near the window that looked out on the side yard, sat Zaria. Zaria Fields was the older daughter, 26. She had spent 3 years upstate living with her grandfather after a long illness, and somewhere in the years since she'd come home, the house had quietly stopped keeping a place for her. Nobody announced it. Nobody needed to. Her bridesmaid had ironed her dress with the creases running the wrong way. No one corrected it. Her bouquet was half the size of Tiana's. No one seemed to see. Her father passed her twice that morning without slowing down. The 3rd time, he paused just long enough to say, "Remember whose name you carry today. Do not make a scene." "Yes, Daddy." Tiana floated over, her gown throwing light across the carpet. She dropped her voice into something that was dressed up as kindness. "Zaria, maybe we should trade. Let the universe decide who marries who." Their mother materialized instantly. "Everything is already settled. Stop playing, Tiana." Tiana pressed a hand over her heart. "I only want my big sister happy." The whole room nodded like she'd quoted scripture. Zaria said nothing. Then somebody looked out the front window. Tiana's groom had pulled up in a black sedan navy suit, that unhurried confidence that fills a room before the man even steps into it. His name was Marcus Cole, and the Fields family had been courting his people for 2 solid years. Zaria's groom arrived on a bicycle. The room held its breath for exactly 1 second, and then the laughter tore loose. A bicycle? That's the husband? What kind of people send their son to his own wedding on 2 wheels? His name was Kang Du-yoon. He was lean, composed, and entirely unmoved by the sound of 30 guests laughing at him through the glass. He leaned the bicycle against the porch rail, smoothed the front of his jacket, and knocked. Zaria's father pulled her into the hallway. "If you want out of this, say the word. I'll make the call myself." Zaria looked at the door, then at her father. She thought about every year she'd spent under this roof feeling like a visitor who had overstayed. "I want to marry him," she said. "Zaria, it's my life. I want peace. I want to live somewhere I'm not treated like a debt somebody's still paying off." Her father drew himself up. "Then go." They dressed her fast. No ceremony to it, no moment. Her mother's eyes stayed dry. Her sister's hug lasted 2 seconds, timed almost to the clock. Nobody walked her out. She climbed onto the back of Du-yoon's bicycle while her family watched from the porch, some of them still laughing. From bride to cargo, somebody called out, "Broke winds again." Du-yoon answered none of it. He fixed his eyes on the road ahead and pedaled down the street, with Zaria gripping the back of his jacket, morning sun slicing through the trees above them. The room Du-yoon lived in was small. 1 window, a second-hand table, a lamp with a shade that leaned like it was tired. "I know it isn't much," he said. Zaria set her bag down and took the room in slowly. "I've lived in a big house. Big didn't make me happy. You mean that? When I got sick, my grandfather took me in. His place was smaller than this, and I never once felt unwanted inside it. After he passed, I went back to my father's house and felt like I was trespassing in my own family. Do-yoon was quiet for a beat. I'm sorry, he said. It's not your fault. I know. I'm still sorry. She turned toward the window, where the light came in thin and clean. One day we could put something there, she said. A plant, maybe. Something alive. Something that grows. He smiled, a real one. The slow kind that starts in the eyes before it reaches the mouth. His mother arrived that same afternoon. She came in loud, draped in oversized jewelry, and a dress 2 shades too bold for a weekday. Do-yoon covered his face with one hand the second he heard the car door slam. Most of it's costume, he whispered. Ioma just loves the shine. But his mother had Zaria wrapped in both arms before she'd even cleared the doorway. My daughter, she said, patting her back like she'd known her 20 years. This home is yours now, small or big yours. Zaria stood very still inside that hug. She couldn't remember the last time anyone had said the word yours to her and meant it. 3 weeks later, Tiana called. There's a gala at the Belmont Grand, she said. Marcus and I are going. You and your husband should come. It'll be fun. Something in Zaria's stomach pulled tight. I'll think about it, she told Do-yoon that night. He set his chopsticks down. Don't go. If I don't, she'll say I'm hiding. Let her say it. I want to stand in that room and show them I'm not broken. Do-yoon went quiet. Then I'm coming with you. Do-yoon, Zaria. You should never have to walk into that room by yourself. If you go, they'll start. I'm not going to sit home and let them. He didn't argue further, but before she left, he opened his hand. Inside it sat a ring, a simple band, a small stone, an old-fashioned setting. This was my Halmione's. My grandmother wore it every day of her life. Do-yoon. I was saving it for later, but I'm not letting you walk in there without it. She slid it on. Don't take it off, he said. I won't. The Belmont Grand Ballroom was the kind of room engineered to make certain people feel small on arrival. Tiana located her within a minute. Zaria, you came. She was hanging on Marcus's arm with both hands. You look great. Honestly, for what you're working with, you look amazing. Marcus ran his eyes down Zaria once. Security guard's wife. Respect. Tiana laughed like he'd said something clever. Come meet people. She steered Zaria across the floor. This is Mr. Whitfield, Mr. Grant, and Mr. Beck. My sister, Zaria. Her husband's last name is Kang, same as that family. Mr. Beck's smile stopped. Kang? As in, no, Tiana cut in quickly. Just a coincidence. He works security. Mr. Beck studied Zaria. Then his eyes dropped to her hand, and something behind them shifted, something careful and suddenly uncertain. Of course, he said slowly. My mistake. Some names just sound expensive, Marcus said, with a clipped laugh. But, Mr. Beck hadn't looked away from the ring. That's a remarkable piece, he said, choosing each word. Thank you. My husband gave it to me. Yes, he said. I can see that. He excused himself almost immediately, and Zaria watched him walk straight to his phone. Why does he keep looking at me like that? By the way, if you're enjoying this so far, do me one small favor, tap that like button. It genuinely helps stories like this reach more people. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. She found Tiana alone near the bar. Why did you really invite me tonight? What kind of question is Tiana? The smile fell just for a second, then came back, smaller and sharper than before. You always do this. You walk into a room and people just notice you. You don't even try. I stayed. I performed for that family for years. You disappeared to Grandpa's for 3 years, came back, and still got more. It isn't fair. I never took anything from you. You took everything without reaching for any of it. And then you married a broke man, left your own wedding on a bicycle, and you still walk around like you won something. Her voice splintered at the edges. I want to see you beg, Zaria. Just once. I want to hear you admit that I won. Tiana, say it. Calm. Zaria looked at her sister for a long, quiet moment. "I hope you find something that actually makes you happy," she said softly. "Because I can see that you're not." And she walked away. Their father appeared near the entrance. "Zaria, what are you doing here?" Tiana invited me. "This is not the kind of room for—" He glanced at Marcus beside him. "There are important people here tonight. Her husband couldn't even get posted at the gate." Marcus said. "Must be his night off." The people nearby laughed. "That's enough," Zaria said. "Excuse me? I said that's enough." Marcus reached out and twisted the ring off her finger before she registered what was happening. "This little thing? This is what passes for a wedding ring?" He held it up to the chandelier. "Did he win it at a carnival? Give it back. Fetch it." The ring spun through the air and clinked against the marble. Zaria went very still. She didn't chase it. She didn't cry. She lowered herself slowly, lifted the ring from the polished floor, and slid it back onto her finger. Then she rose and looked Marcus dead in the eye. She said nothing. She didn't have to. She never heard him come in. She only heard the room change. Marcus stopped mid-sentence. Her father stopped. 3 people near the entrance stepped backward without being asked. Kang Do-yoon crossed that ballroom like the deed to it was in his pocket. "You have no right to judge my wife, and you will never again put your hands on what belongs to her." Marcus recovered fast. "You think you can stroll in here and take what's mine? Nothing in this room is yours." Marcus swept his arm at the walls. "Security. Remove them." Nobody moved. "Ah! Ah! 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 Ah!" The guards traded glances. Then every one of them looked at Do-yoon. "Why aren't they moving?" Tiana's voice had gone thin as paper. "Because he knows the other guards," Marcus said, but the certainty had drained out of him. "That's all it is." Then Mr. Beck came back across the floor, moving fast, 2 men trailing behind him. "Mr. Kang, I am so deeply sorry. This never should have happened here." The room dropped into silence. Marcus laughed, too loud. "He's confused. Common last name. He doesn't know who—" "Sir," Mr. Beck said, turning on him, "you need to stop talking." They left the gala with no further explanation. Outside, under the valet lights, Do-yoon lifted her arm gently and looked at the red mark blooming there. "You're hurt. It's nothing." "Zaria." "I'm okay, Do-yoon." He took her hand and just held it. No speech, no vows. Just the steady weight of his hand wrapped around hers in the quiet outside that loud, glittering building. After that night, Zaria went looking for work. Through Do-yoon, she heard that a sprawling estate nearby needed household staff, and she applied. She had no idea it was the Kang estate. The staff received her at the door with a strange, careful formality. "Welcome, Mum." "Mum? It's just how we address guests," Do-yoon said, appearing behind her. "Guests or staff?" "You'll be helping run the household," he said. "It won't be heavy work. I'll be close by." She nodded. She had no reason not to believe him. What she didn't notice was the way the staff watched her. Not the way people watch a stranger, but the way people watch someone they've been expecting for a very long time. A woman named Yoon Se-ra swept in on the 3rd day, dressed in designer everything, moving through the halls like she was taking inventory of her own future. "You must be new," she said. "I have a very long history with this property. I'm going to be the lady of this house." "I was hired by the household," Zaria answered. "Only the owners can dismiss me." Sarah smiled with her mouth, and nothing else. "Then I'll be sure to remember your face." Later, when Zaria was alone in the kitchen, Sarah reappeared. "Do-yoon and I have history. Whatever you imagine is happening here, it isn't. Men like him end up with families like mine. I'm not trying to take anything." "Good, because you have nothing to take it with." The collision came on a Wednesday. Sarah swept a glass off the counter and pointed at the wreckage. "Clean it up. You knocked it over. And you work here." "Clean it yourself, Sarah." The glass had burst across the tile, and when Sarah seized Zaria's arm to force the point, a shard opened a line across her palm, not deep, but instant. Do-yoon was in the room before the last piece stopped spinning. He looked at Zaria's hand, then at Sarah. He never raised his voice. "Leave. Do-yoon, you can't. Now." He carried Zaria to the sitting room and cleaned the cut with a focus so complete it looked almost like prayer. "You didn't have to carry me," she said. "I know. Put me down, Do-yoon." "No," she almost laughed. That night, his mother sat across from her at the kitchen table. "He has to tell you the truth," she said quietly. "I keep telling him, and he keeps waiting. But the longer he waits, the deeper it cuts." "What truth?" His mother looked down at her own hands. "Ask him. Ask him tonight. Do-yoon." He was standing at the window. "Tell me something. Zaria, why does Sarah believe this house belongs to her future husband?" No answer. "Why does Mr. Beck speak to you like a man reporting to his boss?" Silence. "Why does the staff call me ma'am?" He turned from the window. "I made a mistake." "I know that. I made it because I was afraid, and I kept making it because I didn't know how to stop." She waited. "My name isn't just Do-yoon. I'm Kang Do-yoon." The Kangs. This estate. Don't. Zaria. Don't say it. But she already knew. The bicycle. The room with one window. The staff bowing to royalty playing poor. His grandmother's ring. The gala where a general manager begged forgiveness from a security guard. "You were testing me," she said. "I wanted to know if you'd stay when you believed I had nothing. You lied, yes. You let me believe I married an ordinary man. You let me feel grateful for crumbs. You let me feel strong for surviving something you invented." He offered no defense. He stood there and absorbed every word. "I'm sorry. There's nothing I can say that's big enough for this. I am sorry." She walked out of the room. She sat alone in the garden for a long time. The night was windless. The estate rolled out in every direction, and none of it was what she'd believed it was. The bicycle. The plastic chair at her own wedding. The crooked lamp. The little fish tank he'd once mentioned for a corner that never existed. A rocking chair by the window. Life should have small, growing things inside it. Without thinking, she pressed her palm flat against her stomach. She was pregnant. The doctor confirmed it 2 days later. She hadn't told Do-yoon that she'd fainted the morning after their fight. His mother had called for the car. "She's stable," the doctor said. "Healthy. It's stress mostly. She needs rest and congratulations. About 8 weeks along." His mother wept in the corridor. His father sat with his hands folded and said nothing for a long moment. Then, "The child makes the truth urgent. Tell her everything. Tonight. If this story has you locked in right now, take 2 seconds and subscribe. We release new stories like this every single week, and you don't want the next one to pass you by." Do-yoon came to her in the garden. He sat on the bench beside her, not close. He left space. "I know you don't owe me anything right now," he said. She said nothing. "I want to explain the gala. I arranged that night to present you as my wife, as who you truly are here. I was going to tell you everything. I had it all planned. Then the night collapsed, and I lost my nerve. Again. You keep losing your nerve. I know. You let me feel like the strong one for surviving a hard life, but you built the hard life. You built that room. You staged the bicycle. You watched me adapt to a poverty you manufactured, and you called it a test." He was silent. "The worst part," she said, "is that I was happy. I was genuinely happy in that little room, and now I can't tell if that was real or if that was another thing you designed." "That was real," he said. "That part was completely real. I didn't design your piece, Zaria. You carried that in with you." She stared down at her hands. "I'm pregnant," she said. For a moment he didn't move. Then he breathed out slowly, like something he'd been carrying for years had finally been set on the ground. "Are you?" "I'm fine." "The baby's fine." "Zaria, don't rush me, Do-yoon." The formal banquet came 10 days later. Do-yoon stood at the front of the hall. "This is my wife, Zaria Kang. She belongs here. Anyone in this room who has disrespected her is no longer welcome in any space my family keeps. And that includes family by blood." Her father stepped forward. "Do-yoon, son, we're practically family. We've always—" "You watched your daughter leave her own wedding on a bicycle and called it fitting. You stood silent while her ring was thrown across a ballroom floor. You told her not to embarrass you on the one day that should have belonged to her. Silence. My wife was never the problem in that house. You were." Across the room, Marcus was being cornered by a woman Tiana had never laid eyes on. The woman was calm perfectly, terrifyingly calm, and she was holding a folder. "I have the medical records," she said, "and the photographs. Marcus, I'm pregnant, and I can prove all of it." Tiana turned. Marcus turned. The whole room turned. "Baby, Marcus." Tiana's voice came apart completely. She looked across the room at Zaria, and for the first time in either of their lives, there was nothing on Tiana's face at all. No performance, no angle. Just a woman standing in the middle of a room where everything had caved in at once. Zaria crossed the floor to her. For a moment she said nothing. Then, quietly, "Come on, let's get some air." And Tiana let her. Later, after the hall had emptied and the staff had cleared the last of the tables, Zaria found Du-Yoon sitting on the front steps. She sat down beside him. "I haven't forgiven everything," she said. "I need you to understand that. I know, the lie is what hurt me. Not the money, not the house. The lie. You watched me feel grateful for surviving something you built with your own hands. That's the part I keep circling back to. I won't make excuses for it. Good." She looked out at the dark sweep of the grounds. "But I keep circling back to other things too. The way you crossed that ballroom the first night. The way you cleaned my hand, like it mattered. The way you never once asked me to be anything other than exactly what I was. Zaria, I'm not going anywhere. I need you to know that. I'm staying, but slowly. We build this slowly and honestly, or we don't build it at all. One step," he said. "One step." She tipped her head back and looked up at the sky. "You know what's strange?" she said. "My whole life, I thought I wanted my father to choose me. My family. I thought if somebody just picked me, I'd finally feel like I counted." She turned the ring on her finger. "But you didn't pick me because of who I was. You picked me to find out. And somehow, that's still the most anyone has ever chosen me." Du-Yoon reached over and folded her hand into his. He said nothing. There was nothing left that needed saying. The people who threw her away built the throne she came home to. If this ending hit you the way it hit me, drop a comment below and tell me, was Do-Yoon's test forgivable, or would you have walked away? Like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe so you never miss the next story. See you in the next one.